This is 12-2. It's posting from a cash payments journal to an accounts payable ledger. And we have very similar objectives to 12-1, with the last one changing to post from a cash payments journal and a general journal to an accounts payable ledger. We are on page 278 in your book, as you can see down here in this bottom right-hand corner. So our goal is to post from a cash payments journal to an accounts payable ledger. As we saw in the previous section, accounts payable ledger is a subsidiary ledger, and we total all of our subsidiary ledgers and post them to one account in the general ledger. So cash payments journal, if you recall, anytime we pay out cash to anybody in the history of man, that goes in the cash payments journal. And this is what it looks like. Remember, we have a dedicated column to the accounts payable as a debit, right? This means that we paid off some money that we owed to somebody. In particular, we owed Pacific Imports some money. So on the 7th of November, and the only reason I know it's November is because I looked down here. On the 7th of November, we wrote check number 294 to Pacific Imports for $1,050. So we reduced our cash because we wrote a check. We reduced the amount of money we owe somebody, which was a debit to accounts payable. So we go to our subsidiary ledgers. We find Pacific Imports because this is Pacific Imports. Their vendor number 260. If we look, we've had two previous transactions, and both previous transactions to them, both of them was us buying merchandise from them, and then we bought it on account, so that means we had to pay them later. If we look on October 7th, they sent us an invoice for $1,050, and on November 7th, we're going to pay them back for it. So here's something interesting though. Assuming our terms are net 30 and they sent us this invoice on October 7th, or we got the invoice and we put it in our ledger on October 7th, we should have had 30 days to pay them. Well, October has 31 days, so we probably should have paid them by November 5th or 6th, right? So unless our payment terms are 31 days or 35 days, there's potential that this payment is late. So anyway, so we have this amount and we need to post from our cash payments journal, and we need to post that into our subsidiary ledger for Pacific Imports. So what are the steps involved? I know you guys are shocked by this. The very first thing we do is write the date. It's like we cannot get away from writing dates, can we? We wrote our date. The date should match. This was on the 7th. We wrote this check. It should be on the 7th that we date it in our ledger. We write the journal page number, CP21. This tells me it came from Cash Payments Journal, page 21. Ooh, page 21 right there. This is just like when we did it in the general ledger. Nothing has changed much. We write whether it's a debit or credit. Well, this is going to our accounts payable, into our subsidiary accounts payable ledgers. So it's going to be a debit, right? This is the first thing we do. We come over here, we say, all right, here's a debit. It's for $10.50. I keep forgetting it has lines that it draws them for me. We calculate our new account balance. Well, how do we calculate our new account balance? We take our credit amount, which for an accounts payable is a positive, and then we say, okay, this was a debit. Well, this debit for accounts payable is a negative. We're reducing the amount that we owe still. So we take our positive amount, we back out or subtract our negative, 10 for $10.50, and we're not subtracting a negative, we're actually adding a negative. So we have a positive and a negative. We combine them, we add a positive and negative, or we could say we subtract this amount. I don't want to confuse you more than you're already confused. And we calculate our new balance. So $4,866 minus $1,050, it's $3,816. And then the last thing we do is we go back to our journal, and in the post-ref column, that's right here, we write our vendor number, which we pulled from in the upper right-hand corner. That lets us know that this transaction has been posted. Sorry, go back to that for just a second so you can finish. Okay, so posting from a credit entry from a general journal to an accounts payable ledger. Now, these are slides that come from the book, so I didn't actually write that heading, but I feel like those are a lot of froms. So let's go. We're going to look at our general journal. And do you guys remember the slash? Remember I told you that you have to have this when it is affecting more than one account, and we would learn it in chapter 12. Well, we're in chapter 12 and we're learning it. So accounts payable, this is our controlling ledger. This is our subsidiary ledger. This slash tells us that this one credit goes into both of these accounts. Remember us talking about this before? Maybe. And by the way, we're on page 279 in our textbook. So this is very similar that we're posting from the payable ledger. Nothing has changed from the cash payments journal except for we have to squeeze this number in. So we write our date. Again, the date should match. We write our journal page number. This time it came from general journal page 11. We write our credit because this is a credit transaction up here. This is a credit transaction for $210. We write it down here on the credit line. We calculate a new balance, right? We had $498, which is a credit. We had $210 because we purchased merchandise. Actually, we purchased supplies. That's why it's in our general journals, because it's supplies. We purchased supplies on account, so we're increasing the amount that we owe. So we add our $498 and our $210, and we end up with $708 that we owe. And then the very last thing is that we go back to our general journal and we write the vendor number right here in our post-ref column. Well, if you notice, we have the slash, right? This top piece corresponds to accounts payable. This bottom piece corresponds to Foxfire Supply. So we write 250 below the slash for this one. So, proving the accounts payable ledger. This is the part where we take everything that's in our subsidiary ledgers and we post it to our controlling ledger. In this case, we're talking about accounts payable. So we create what's called a schedule of accounts payable. And in this schedule of accounts payable, we list everybody that we owe money to. We list all of the balances. We total it, total accounts payable. And then we go and we look in our accounts payable, we go and we look in our controlling ledger or in our general ledger. We look on the accounts payable line and we make sure that those two balances match, right? So we have $19,044.08 in our subsidiary ledgers. We should have $19,044.08 in our general ledger. Oh, I thought I actually outlined the steps for that, but I guess it doesn't. All you do is you write your heading. Headings are important, guys. A lot of you guys left those off in the post-closing trial balance. You have to have a heading. What am I looking at if I don't have a heading? You don't know. We write the name of the business. Well, this is the schedule of accounts payable for Omni Import. Remember, our Omni Import is our business. So we write our schedule of accounts payable. That's the title of our report, which is the schedule of accounts payable. We write the date, November 30th, 2013, right? Or the book says use the current year, so it's usually 2014, but it hasn't happened yet, which is why I don't ever like to use it. Okay, but this is done at the end of every month. At the end of every month, we total up our subsidiary ledgers, and then we post it where we make sure that it matches what's in our general ledger. We prove it. Next step is that we list all of our vendors. So these are all of our vendors, right? If we go back and look at our chart of accounts, these are all 6 in our chart of accounts. We list each of the balances. Where did we get these balances? Well, we got these balances from our subsidiary ledger pages, right? So Foxfire Supply on November 6th, they owed us, we owed them $708. Foxfire Supply, it looks like we had at least one more transaction for $198, but this is the balance, right? We would just go look in that ledger right here in the balance column. Okay, we add those up. We write total accounts payable. We list the amount right here. Remember, do not forget your rulings. You have a single ruling to show you there's a subtotal. You have a double line to show you it's been proved. So you take this amount, you go look in your general ledger, and you make sure that they match. If they don't match, you have an error. You have to go fix it. There was a mistake done somewhere. Don't forget your rulings. A lot of you guys are forgetting your rulings as well. Those are important. I think that you lost 3 points for every ruling that you didn't have in your last assignment in your journals, and your post-closing trial balance, you lost 10 points if you forgot to do your heading. So those are important. This is the end of 12-2, and I'm sure that there's probably another lovely assignment for you on the projector screen.